We're here. We've made it. Episodes 10 and 11 for 90 Day Fiancé. These are finally some good episodes, full of drama, full of opinions. Let's get started. So we pick up right after the Western kind of festival where everybody, not festival, like Western mixer night, where everybody was meeting together, lots of tea, lots of juiciness, and apparently the night's not over for our couples. We get to see Annie and Nick, and Annie's drunkety drunk. Like she is feeling all of herself. And what she is especially concerned about is how little Nick is feeling her. She has gone back to and reverted back to the whole, "You don't really love me like I love you," and she's doing that. He just wants to eat his chalupa. He's not into it. He's like, "Listen, like, can we just, like, not do this? Is it possible to not at all do any of this?" She's like, "But I really, really love you." If Nick lets her, Annie is totally gonna love him to death. That's pretty much where that ends, but we do pick up on that later, so put a pin in that. We then get to go to Anton and Allie, and she's finally had enough of his drinking. She's like, "Where did the White Claws go?" I think they're White Claws. He's like, "Those White Claws? What White Claws? Those ones? I don't remember any White Claws." Like, "Where did the 12 pack of Coors go?" And he's like, "What 12 pack of Coors? I don't remember any 12 pack of Coors." Then he lets it slip up that his buddy was in their apartment, and she's like, "Excuse me? Please the fuck out of me. What do you mean he was in our apartment?" And I don't think it was a problem that he was in the apartment. I would assume the problem was that, like, this happened days ago and Anton didn't say anything about it. So we know that the things that we do know is definitely Anton and his buddy drank all the Coors. Definitely Anton and his buddy drank all of the White Claws, and they definitely did it while both in the apartment. But you can't say that to Allie. She's annoyed, so then she decides to test him because then she's like, "What about the tequila? Didn't we have a bottle of tequila?" And he's like, "Tequila? Us here in this apartment?" And then has the audacity to walk all the way to the fridge, and we know he is walking all the way to the fridge because he needs to come up with a really good cover story. Like, he knew there was no tequila in that fridge, but he needed time to process and think up a story. And so he gets there and he's like, "Yeah, no tequila in the fridge." So she obviously thinks this is a problem. She's like, "Your drinking is a problem. This is what you do. You come home and you drink." And he's like, "Is what you do come home and not clean up?" And she's like, "No. Have you seen me? Of course I don't clean up after work." So, again, this is probably the closest to drama I actually think is between these 2. I don't think that there's any real drama to them. I do think she has problems with him drinking, though. But whether it is a problem or not, like, that remains to be seen. Unfortunately, living together for 2 weeks is not long enough to sniff this kind of problem out, which is why it's a horrible idea that these people all get married, but you signed up for it, so you get what you get, and you don't get upset. So we get to worry about his drinking again for another day. Meg and Jordan meet his parents. That's Papa Jordan and Mama Jordan. And they say that having grandchildren is the benefit, the gift that they get for not killing Jordan when he was a teenager. Everybody likes everybody. Very, very unproblematic dinner, but then again, what's to be problematic here? He's, like, marrying somebody who's bringing all of the money with her. Then we get to fly in for a conversation with KB and Edmund. I have had a theory this entire time that they've probably been fighting, but KB has been very, very cognizant to have these fights off screen. And I agree, like, who wants all of their dirty laundry aired out, especially if you actually make it? So the fact that they are now arguing on screen kind of gives me the impression that she's finally checked out. Like, we've seen that she's been checked out in videos in, like, episodes past, but now I believe she is totally checked out. She knows that they're just going through these motions, and she is over it. Edmund, I cannot believe, like, even physically, like, looking his face when he gets into these, like, arguments with KB, he, like, looks like a child. Like, he doesn't look like a man there. He has the face of a child. Like, have you ever been, like, lecturing your teenager and you're, like, making all of these great points to them, and you think that you are explaining and you're getting through to them, and you are expressing your frustration, and you are telling them exactly what they can do to not have this conversation again. And then you look over at them and they have this look on their face, and you're like, "You are not even here. You're not here. You're literally just waiting for me to stop talking so you can be like, 'Yeah, I'm just gonna go to my room and ground myself for the next week and just avoid you and then continue doing whatever it is that I've been doing this whole time.'" That is the face. That is the face that, "No, I am not going to bring my dishes down, and I'm going to continually take out the garbage and not the recycling." She's had it, she's done. She is going on about the real meaning behind their argument at the party last night. And essentially, him it was not about him saying that she doesn't say he's perfect, or he doesn't say that good or he's saying it's about, like, he thinks that it's because she doesn't say good things about her, but she's like, "No, it's about I was starving. I had a packed day yesterday and we had to go to that mixer. I had appointments back to back to back all day, and then I had promised to go to Ross and pick up some stuff for our outfits, not my outfit, our outfit, yours included." So she finally finished up with her errands and her appointments, and she was starving. She'd been on her feet, she'd been on the go, she did not have a chance to sit down and even eat all day, and she's like, "Please, can you just do me a favor? I need to shower, I need to do my hair, I need to do my makeup, I need to eat something. Can you please run to Ross that's 7 minutes away, pick up some belts and some hats or something for this mixer, and come back?" And when she called, she was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Nothing." All and we know, proportionally, it takes a little bit longer for females to get ready than males generally, like, we just have more steps involved. And he said, "No." And that is mind-blowing, like, she had me at that point. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. It's not like she's picking up stuff for herself, she's picking up stuff for the both of them. So, she's not just going for her, like, if she was like, "Can you go pick me out an outfit?" And he was like, "No, I'm not walking into that trap," it would be different. If she's like, "Can you just go and grab some Western accessories for the both of us, you included?" Now it's just like, "No." Like, he'd been doing nothing all day. So then she had to go to Ross. She had to pick them, the both of them included, up some accessories for the party, and then she had to get herself ready. And the whole time she's getting herself ready, he's pretending like nothing happened. He's like, "Don't I look fly? Don't I look this? Don't I look crisp? Don't I look clean?" That would annoy the fuck out of me too. That would annoy me so bad. So I get it. And so that's how it was, but she was like, "I dealt with it, I got over it, I squashed the beef, I wanted to go to the mixer, I wanted to have a good time, and then you're sitting there and you're saying that I don't do anything nice for you. I don't do anything to appreciate you." And that's what sent her over. And then not even just that, but when she was, like, trying to reply, like, when she was trying to answer, like, "I don't do anything nice to you," he's like, "Don't talk about it now. No, 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 we're not gonna talk about this now, we're not gonna do that here." So now not only is he going to give her a dig in front of everyone, he's not gonna let her respond. And she said that what was humiliating was the look on the face of everybody around her. Everybody was looking at her like, "You ain't shit. Why are you being like, why can't you be nice to Edmund? Why can't you be nice to your man? Why don't you take care of your man? Why are you so critical? Why are you mean? You're an angry Black woman." Which I feel that. I feel that because I am sure she knew before she came on the show, she was like, "I am not going to let them paint me out to be an angry Black woman," which is why I think that up until now, she has kept most of her gripes, most of her complaints off of the screen. But here, she's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? You're saying I'm not nice to you. You say I don't affirm you. You say I don't say anything nice to you. I don't help you. I don't do anything for you. I did that. And this is just one situation out of the whole month. And so she is so frustrated. But at the end, she says she wants to work it out. She wants to love him. She wants to marry him. She wants to have kids in a year. She wants him to have fun for a year, have kids, and then go. And the problem is this, is that she's gonna have to teach him to be the man that she needs him to be, and I don't know if everybody can become anybody. Does that make sense? Like, if he isn't, like, a self-centered person, I don't think that her trying to teach him to look outward more is necessarily going to work if he does not want to make those choices for himself. Like, because he's sitting there saying, like, "I don't see anything wrong with it, what I did. I wasn't wrong." And if he doesn't want to change, he's not gonna change, and he's just gonna continue on, and he's just gonna go upstairs, put himself in timeout, and still not bring down the dishes and not take out the recycling. You get what I'm saying? Next, we get to Madison and Joe, and they are meeting Madison's family. Madison's family loves Joe, except for this guy. This guy knows better. The sister loves him. You can see Joe freaking out a little bit right here because he is telling them the story about how he literally almost ditched his last fiance in the final hours before their wedding. He was supposed to go to the post office box and or the mailbox, post office and mail out the invitations. And on the way, he was like, "What if I don't? Like, what if instead of inviting people to my wedding, I just don't? Nobody comes. There will be no wedding." So, and then he told his fiance about this and broke up with her. He's like, "No, no, 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 no. Don't worry. I would never do this to Madison. Madison is the love of my life, even though she's apparently a little thickum." Oh, Joe. Then we get to see Allie and Anton. Now that there's nobody left, we have to fill up some space with them. So they are meeting Anton's mom. Anton's mom loves Allie and says that Anton and her should have been married years ago. And then she says that Anton has been making the change. She's noticed that Anton's been making changes in the last couple of years to towards wanting to find a wife. And I think that's adorable. If your mom has noticed that you've been making like some life changes to make room for a like to start building a forever life and make room for a wife, then that's awesome. I have a little bit more faith in them, but again, you never know. But again, I still think that most of their conflict is manufactured. This caught me out of left field. I was not prepared for this whole scene. I was prepared for the scene, I was not prepared for the conclusion. So, Nick has decided that she cannot make him marry her. Yeah, that's right. So, he has decided that he is over her doubting his love and that he's not gonna do it. The thought of marrying Annie does not excite him, and he doesn't wanna do it, and he's gonna go out. He's gonna leave now, and she's not gonna follow him, and she's never gonna see him again, and that's just the conclusion of their relationship, and Annie goes through the entire spectrum of emotions. Here, he's like, "I can't make 1 and 1 equal 3," and she's like, "Oh, trust me, I can." And then he's like, "No, like, this is not gonna work, like," and she is basically through this entire conversation, "Don't worry, I can love you enough for the both of us." And he's just like, "Yeah, I'd rather not, though. I'd rather not." So, they break up. At some point, he apparently asks her to leave, they're packing their stuff, and it's over. They're over. I would have pegged these 2 to be the only ones who got married this season. I really, in my mind, I thought that they were gonna be the one couple that gets married. I have no trust in the others. But we will talk about my predictions for the couples at the end of this because weddings are next week. Apparently, and not Anton. Edmund does not know the difference between country and county, but we will forgive him for that. And then we go on to the wedding dresses. Did I get a picture of her outfit? I love KB's outfit in this. Like, I love me like a romper slash onesie. And this one she wore today killed it. Allie is complaining about Anton's drinking. Meg is talking about meeting Luca, and I guess his Dexcom went off in the middle of the night. That's the diabetes monitor. It went off in the middle of the night and totally freaked her out, and she obviously had, like, some PTSD around it because she was crying about that. And then we meet the people. I'm not gonna see them again. Allie's dress. Getting a good picture of the dresses was really hard, so please forgive me. This is Allie's final dress, which I love it, and it has hold on. It had this little slit in it that you couldn't see when she was walking in, so it's this kind of, like, hidden slit that you can, like, choose to make visible or not. I love that. I love those kind of little details, especially on formal gowns that make them special like that. Like, it can be Like, you can have, like, the slit not really visible for the ceremony, and then bam, during the actual what is it? The reception, you can all of a sudden have the slit, like, showing a little bit more and have it a little bit more risque party time. It's like right? It's like business, party, business, party. Next, we have this. Who is this? Oh, this is still her. This is still her in her dress. She loved it. Then we also see at the same time that's happening are the grooms are getting their stuff together. Anton brought his mom, which I thought was adorable, but he said that nobody else was available, so that kind of cheapens that. Then we have KB's dress. I loved her dress. They only showed one for her. I would have liked to see what it was up against, but you know what? This one is so her and it's gorgeous. Then we have Meg's dress. This is the first dress she tried on. And then she chose this one, which had like some flowery, kind of feathery poofies at the bottom. Love them. I think it's a gorgeous dress. Also sparkly as usual. And Jordan's burgundy tux. They talk about the burgundy tux later. And I legitimately didn't even notice it was burgundy during the actual thing, but Meg is, like, drilling him about the burgundy tux later on, and I literally had to go back and check if he actually picked out a burgundy tux or if he was just messing with her again. So, yeah, burgundy tux, and then we have Madison, and Madison's dress was also just lovely. So simple. I love the button detail in the back. It was so simple, so pretty. I think they did her so dirty with all this dust on the mirror. Rude. And she's, like, just so happy. And then we see Joey, and again, I had to watch this back a couple of times, but you can actually see the moment where Joey goes from, like, "I'm having fun," to, like, "Get me out of here." Joey ends up I can only assume he had, like, a full-on panic attack. Now I'm looking at these pictures, maybe he's also drunk, because like, he cannot open his eyes, which you don't notice when you're watching the filming of it, but obviously, like, when you're doing the pictures don't lie. So, he has a full-on panic attack and walks out from the fitting, which is wild. So, he walks out, his friends are like, "Qu'est-ce que fuck?" And yeah, he's gone, he's gone. They did him dirty with this walkout scene, I'm just saying. And that is where that episode ends. That was the end of episode 10. And then we go into episode 9, and they cannot just pick up where they left off because they are cruel. They are cruel. So we get to see that Allie is apparently a great snowboarder, and Anton doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So that was fun. Then we get the pickup with Madison. Then we get the pickup with Madison and Joe, and she is telling her mom that he messaged her and apparently it's over. So he comes down, he does talk to her face to face, which, you know what, I was not sure that we were gonna get this scene because I could totally see him just text messaging and then, like, poofing, never to be seen or heard from again, like, changing his number, moving well, his lease is up anyway, so which makes us wonder because we all knew that the whole reason that Joe got into this is because his lease was up and he needed somewhere to stay. So now the question is, where is he gonna stay? Like, who's gonna, like, house him now? Maybe his parents said he can come back home. I don't know. So she has some questions. She wants to know if there's anybody else, and he says, like, no, there was nobody else. It was nobody from the mixer. I'm not going to go and be with anybody from the pods. So that's interesting. That'll be a very interesting one for the reunion. Very interesting. I can't wait to see that. Next, she wants to know if it wasn't for the TV show, if they had just met organically, would they have lasted longer? And he says no. Basically, if it was outside of this experience, they probably would not have lasted as long as they did. And he has a little confessional, he just couldn't do it. That's what he says. He says that it's easier if he just breaks it off now than if he continues, and that he would be a no at the end. He'd be a no at the altar, and he didn't want to do that to her. Well, it was implied that he didn't want to do that to her. I think that I do respect that about him. At least he didn't do it at the altar. But then the question is, would he have had the cojones to do it at the altar, or would he have just gone along to get along, right? So at least he didn't embarrass her in front of her whole family and in front of all of her friends. Like, I Feel so bad. Like, if it's a definite no at the altar, I don't think people should go, but that's besides the point. We'll get into that later with this. Production did her dirty. We know she has sight problems. You did not have to do that to her. Next, we get to KB, and this was what we wanted to see. KB finally comes out, and you're this is just the theme now. And she calls out the fact that Edmund is not the same person behind the camera or when the camera's off as when the camera is on, which I was curious about that. Apparently, he has been performing for the camera this whole time, and that she is hurt because he will go and he'll do these things that are disrespectful or rude or dismissive of her, and then as soon as the camera comes on, he's all like in his character all over again. And she brings this up to him when nobody's around to try and address this off screen. And he says he didn't do anything wrong. He is not gonna apologize, and basically, her attitude, her problem. If she feels like she's hurt, that's her problem, and she's so, so done. She also goes on about how he doesn't let her speak, and they go into this really unhealthy dialogue where they're just cutting each other off, and she calls him a bitch. And there's, like, this unwritten rule in couples, and this unwritten rule clearly stipulates that the second you call your man a bitch to his face, like, the relationship is just over, right? Like, that's the end of the relationship. Like, there's no coming back for that. Like, not for you because you've called him a bitch to his face, and not to him because now he knows that you think he's a bitch. So, like, how is there a way forward? So Edmund just walks away, or at least that's the edit. We have to remember that everything we're shown here is just an edit, is a story that the producers pieced together and they are presenting to us. Justice for KB, though. I'm sorry. The way that her voice was trembling and breaking when she was trying to communicate her frustration earlier in the conversation was absolutely heartbreaking. Like, you could feel her voice trembling. Like, I was ready. I was ready to, like, have a tear, to summon a tear for her because it was so heartbreaking, like, how frustrated she is. And the next scene, we go on to talk to Allie and her mom, and they're having a conversation, I guess, about one of Allie's sisters. I don't know if it's like her favorite sister, her best friend's sister, but one of her sisters is having a hard time and does not accept the conversation, like this relationship at all. And then we get Anton coming in and joining them. We actually out a little bit more about Anton's job, and apparently he is an instructor for truck drivers, but he also has some side hustle of investing real estate investments on the side. So yeah, I think he probably can afford Allie. If not right now, very soon. Then we go to Megan and Jordan, and we start to see the first real crumbling in their actual relationship. So they make hats, that's fun, and then they talk. So apparently, Megan wants more attention. When Jordan comes home from work, he doesn't really talk to her, and she just needs some conversation. She wants them to talk more. She wants them to spend more time together, like actually engaging. She's lonely. She works from home and she doesn't get to talk to people all day. Whereas Jordan, works in the service industry and he's exhausted. His, like, entire people meter is depleted by the time he comes home, and he just wants to sit at home on the couch, zone out, and watch a movie and not talk, and she's like, "But I need you to talk to me and tell me how your day was," and he's like, "I don't wanna relive that shit." We get to see KB again. Oh, and she's sitting there, she is waiting, and Edmund comes in with flowers. I'm looking at these flowers, and they're already in the vase. I think the producer got him these flowers. I don't think he picked them out himself. I think the producers convinced him to come back one more time and apologize to her because I don't know. He apologizes to her. They kinda make up. She says that he has made her a better person and that she doesn't necessarily want him to carry all of the onus, but in order for either one of them to be able to move forward in the relationship, they both have to take ownership in their parts of the toxicity they're experiencing right now and move on. Edmund says he apologizes, which we already heard from the last argument they had that he's not sorry and he's never going to be sorry. So sorry, not sorry. But The producers have assured him that as long as he apologizes this time, they can finish out and make it to the altar and he can get his full check or whatever. I don't know. And so they're having one more scene where they apologize. I don't really believe either one of them in this arc in this scene. I'm sorry. I feel like these two are just trying to make it to the altar so that maybe Ali and Anton go for their final date. They are in a sleigh. I don't think I've ever been in one of these like wintry sleighs. It looks like it's fun. And they're just chatting. He basically is talking about how they both need to give 100% and not give up on each other in order for their marriage to work. And Allie is basically saying, listen, I'm going to try, but I'm also going to keep my eyes open, be rational and level headed, and know that there is a point in which we're going to experience diminishing returns. And if there's something that I can't live with, I'm going to have to walk away. And then KB is going on her final date with Edmund and they go rollerblading. So obviously Edmund is wants to be a rollerblade model. I don't know. We then get to go in and we get to see our final conversation, and that is between Jordan and Megan. And they are crumbling under this. Like Megan is like, I want to have a life after my marriage to you. I want to play tennis at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. I want to go to Italy. I want to travel. I want to have nice fancy dinners. I wanna be able to go out and do things and have a social life. And he's like, "In this economy with children?" Like, he's like, "Going to Italy with a five-year-old is my definition of hell." And he's not wrong. He basically kind of is like, "Listen, like, when you have kids, if you are middle class and you cannot afford a nanny, like, you have to raise your own children. So getting up and going for, fancy dinners is not always happening. You don't you don't do that. Like, you don't necessarily have the time. Like, there's work, there's school, there's homework, there's life, there's band practice and dance recitals and like your life is packed. There's doctor's appointments if you have child with type 1 diabetes and that like life is not like that. Like if you want to be married and if you want to have a family, especially if you want to be part of a pre-made family, a prefab family, then that's not life. Like this jet setting wild life of freedom and luxury is not necessarily what you're going to get anymore. Now you have to live in reality where, time is Jordan's like, "Listen, time is a luxury, and I wanna spend my time with my kids. I don't want a nanny raising my kids." And this is something that, like, before you have kids, you think that life is gonna be one way, and then you have kids, and they quickly teach you that life is gonna look a little different than you expected it to. And, it's not bad, it's not good, it's life, like, it's extremely rewarding, but it's not always what you thought it would look like. But that's not something you can necessarily tell somebody before they've lived day in and day out with children, like, you have to live with them, and you have to, like, get used to that life and get used to making these sacrifices and get used to making these concessions. She also wants to know why he won't just have a conversation with her every day, like come home and like download his entire day to her so that she can be like, "Yeah, he sucks," and stuff like that. And he's like, "I'm tired. I'm tired from talking. I don't want to talk anymore. I talk all day." And I get that. Get that. I remember one of my very first jobs, I worked in a call center, an inbound call center, luckily. And like you're just talking and answering questions and like looking up orders and like stuff all day. And even though it wasn't face to face, it was exhausting, like sitting there and you have to take like 60 calls per hour or whatever, however many it is. And it was just absolutely exhausting. And me, as somebody who loves to talk, by the time I got home, I was just like, ugh. Like, what happened? Nothing. Nothing happened. So I do get it. But he tries to make a joke. It's a horrible joke. He's like, leave the funny to me. So these two say they're going to make it. Okay. That's the end. That's where we let off. What are my predictions? We're only left with three couples. My initial prediction up until I thought that it was going to be Nick and Annie and nothing. But now we're left with these last three. So Allie and Anton, I think they're going to be a yes. I think Anton's going to be a yes. I think Allie's probably gonna be a yes. I think they're gonna be a yes, yes. If anybody says no, it's gonna be Allie, I think. KB's gonna be a no. And Edmund, if Edmund goes first, I think he'd be a yes. If sorry, I should say this. If KB says yes, Edmund will be a yes. But I think KB's gonna be a no. And these 2, I think they're gonna be a no-no. I think Jordan's definitely gonna be a no. Like, Jordan's gonna be like a hell no. And Megan, I think she's gonna be a no. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna make it. I don't think any I don't think we're gonna have any this. If anybody, I think it's gonna be Allie and Anton. Those are my predictions. I'm sticking with them. I'm locking them in. I will see you next week.